Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for our last color of the night. So, hello everybody and welcome to our complete Shadows over Innistrad set review. Today we're talking about the black cards. I am Evan Irwin.
I'm still Brad Nelson.
He's still there every day, like all the time.
Just I never move from this spot.
No,
I won't anymore. Actually, it's very comfy. Like I said earlier, I'm using Jerry's setup. It's great. I'm just gonna move in.
Nice. You and Jerry just like bro, like hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Yep. Well, we're gonna start our black cards today with a Cursed Witch, which is a black and 3 generic mana for a 4/2, an uncommon human shaman. Spells your opponents cast that target a Cursed Witch cost 1 colorless less to cast. When a Cursed Witch dies, you return it to the battlefield transformed, under your control, attached to target opponent. And you do that because her other side is the Infectious Curse. It is an aura it's a aura curse, mind you. It is enchant player. Spells you cast that target enchanted player cost 1 generic mana less to cast. If at the beginning of at the beginning of the enchanted player's upkeep, that player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So the stuff they target with makes it cheaper, but they don't really want it to die, or you're going to get like this really sweet curse on them that happens over and over again.
Yeah, and this is like the throwback to the curses from Innistrad Block, which there was many of them.
Right.
And so that's really cool. I just didn't see that. Like every single keyword has a throwback, which is awesome. And card seems great because it's a 4/2 that trades, and when it trades, it continues to bleed them out. It's just a 1/1 lifelinker every turn. Think of it that way.
Right.
That is pretty difficult to get off the board, and if it makes spells cheaper to cast on that player, it probably doesn't help, but it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I mean it's a free bonus, you know. It's like giving flying to a dude on top of your 7 mana 5/5 flyer, you know.
Exactly. Yes.
It's weird and dumb, but who cares, right? Like gravy. Hashtag sweet gravy. So Infectious Curse is cool. There was a witch in the original Innistrad that went and found a curse, but this one actually just turns into the curse.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Which is fantastic. Elusive Tormentor is next. This is the buy a box promo. Absolutely love this card. It's a 2 black, 2 generic mana, 4/4. It's a rare vampire wizard. For 1 generic mana, discard a card, to transform it into Insidious Mist. The Mist is a 0/1 elemental that is hexproof, it's indestructible, it can't block or be blocked, and whenever it attacks and is not blocked, you may pay 1 black and 2 generic mana. If you do, you transform it back into the Elusive Tormentor. So this guy is, I think, easily a limited bomb. It's great, it's very powerful, it's fantastic. How good is this? Could this actually make constructed if vampires are a thing?
I don't know. There's a lot to compete with Kalidas and even non-vampire-esque creatures. Like the problem that the vampires deck has, in my opinion, is you want to be red-black because Olivia is so powerful, but the theme of vampires is discarding and madness.
Right.
But a lot of the 1 and 2 drops are really bad. And so I don't really know if there's enough yet for the vampire deck to be a competitive thing, but I do think that this card is a limited all-star but won't see any constructive play because just a 4/4 for 4 without coming into play and draining for 3 life and having another toughness, it's, you know, like it's just not good. It's just not good enough. Like
it doesn't have trample, so like
yeah, but it is a limited bomb. Like you just like I can't see a situation where I see this is in play and I'm like, well, I want to choose a different game plan.
Sure.
Like let's take a different route in this game. Like I just feel like discard attack for 4, discard attack for 4, discard attack for 4 is going to win a lot of games unlimited.
Look, man, and I know that Wizards wants to say Kalitas, but no. I'm Southern.
Is that why they say that?
Yeah.
Kalitas?
Kalitas is like what they call him or whatever. And I'm like, dude, from the South, bruh. That's Cletus. What's going on, Cletus?
That's a real thing to you.
Murmur. All right. Moving on. Heir of Falcon Wrath, also known as Once You See It, You Will Never Unsee It, is a black and a generic mana 2/1 uncommon vampire. You discard a card to transform it. Activate this ability only once each turn. Before we move on, check out the chest right there. It's perfectly formed where her dress and her neck piece meet to make it look like a bat. That's cool. Congratulations, You'll never unsee that. And she turns into, just to finish out here, Heir to the Night, a 3/2 flying vampire berserker.
Yeah. The card I think is very good. It's going. I've been impressed with it. I've been impressed with the vampires that all have flying,
Sure.
because flying doesn't really like. There's not a ton of flying in this in the constructed format. Also, black has very good removal to deal with Avacyn, and a lot of decks that want to play Avacyn don't have other flyers. And so you can kind of rule the air in the vampire world. But like talking about the bat on the chest, I just remember I was going to, I don't remember what event I was heading up to. I think it was the Modern Grand Prix,
Okay.
Detroit maybe. And a lot of the cards were getting spoiled, like the first run of them. That's around that time.
Yeah, that was Detroit.
Yeah, and I just remember like this card coming out, and then somebody made like the animated bat flying off of the chest
Right.
video, and then they showed the mythic black vampire, which was the one that like from the March of the Endless. We'll get to that too. Sorry, I'm spoiling it.
The Relentless
But
Dead, you mean? That's not a
the
vampire. That's
Relentless
a
Dead
zombie.
or zombie. That's what I meant. The Relentless Dead, and just blew my mind. Like the first run of the cards they showed us were just all of the icing on this set of flavor, and like it was the moment that they just brought me back into the world of Innistrad, and it just proves that this is just one of the best sets. It's so flavorful, and they just did such a beautiful job on it, and I just applaud them for cards like this and just making me care about Magic. I'm almost 30 years old. I've been playing this game for 14 years. A lot of my like views on Magic have been slightly jaded,
Right.
but like they bring me back into the world of Innistrad with cards like this.
So, but I'm 35, and as of this year, I'll be playing the game for 20 years.
Wow.
20 years. 1996, baby. Summer school. It happened. The other thing I like about this card, in particular, Heir to the Night, is that it's a vampire berserker. That's really kind of rare, I think. And, like, you know, the flavor text is that they have lost all pretense at nobility. They don't give a crap. They just gonna kill and drink blood is happening. Would you like some drinking blood, berserker? And everybody who got that, congratulations. All right. We're gonna move on here. Kindly Stranger is awesome. A beautiful card. It's a black and 2 generic mana 2/3. It's an uncommon human. It's a kind old lady holding her, just, you know, this little lantern there, just hanging out and being cool and all. But when you have Delirium, you may pay a black and 2 generic mana to transform Kindly Stranger. Obviously, you can only activate it if Delirium is active. And the other side is a freaky, horrible, demon-possessed witch. Literally the name demon-possessed witch. She is a 4/3, and when you transform her, she destroys target creature. So this is easily one of the best black uncommons that exist in the format.
Yeah, this card is disgusting. Just being able to at instant speed turn into a 4/3, destroy a creature. How do you block it? Um, and with some of the best flavor text back and forth, and I understand that there's just all of these cards are really like these morphs or not morphs flip cards
Right.
have so much more flavor than the old Innistrad. They put so much into them, from the art to the flavor text to the flip side, and this one is just wonderful.
Absolutely. So, I mean, the front side is little old lady, I'm not afraid out here, for I know that a higher power protects me. And then the other half is she's freaky and scary, and she's coming to get you, and it looks like you could use some protection of your own.
Because her voice just drops at 4.
Because that's what happens when you become possessed. All right. Alms of the Vein is a black and 2 generic mana common sorcery that target opponent loses 3 life when you gain 3 life. However, for one black, you can play it for its madness cost.
And it's unplayable, completely terrible.
Wait. Say it again because you got all robot-y.
It's awful.
It's awful.
It's still unplayable.
It's Terabad.
I think it's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, even if you're like getting a free loot and doing this effect, I feel like you have better madness to put in your deck. I just don't think this is going to be good in limited, or obviously not standard.
Right. And thank you, Chad. Remember, buddy, it's transform. It's not flip. Because we had flip cards. I lived through that era. It's called Kamigawa block. They kind of sucked.
It's whatever. They're all the same.
I
Sweep it under the rug, chat. Come on.
Wow. All right. Asylum Visitor is a black and a generic mana for a 3/1 rare vampire wizard. He's a vampire wizard. Gonna drink your blood. All right. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, if that player has no cards in hand, you draw a card and you lose a life. It has a madness for a black and a generic mana. This is not Blood Scrivener. This is Blood Scrivener, bigger, badder, and uncut.
Yeah. It's also like I don't think the card's that good because like the whole idea of drawing a card on your opponent's turn when they have no cards or what is it? Yeah, on their turn you'll draw a card. Even if you're hellbent, I don't think you're going to draw a card because you had to have drawn an instant. So
Well,
like getting both sides of it isn't going to happen that often.
yeah, I mean it's going to have to be like, okay, at the end of my turn, I'm going to discard to this effect and put Asylum Visitor into play, and then they'll go, okay, at the end of your turn, I'm going to kill it, and you're like, oh, because it
Yeah.
happens at the beginning of each player's upkeep, so you can't be like go and then flash it in, like it has to be there by the beginning of it.
Yeah, and so I just don't think that this card's particularly that great. Prove me wrong. I would like this to be a good card, but the one thing I like want to say is, so Asylum Visitor is like crazy people. What do you have to do to be deemed crazy on a planet like this? You know, like you can't say I seen ghosts or like my husband turned into a werewolf. Like these things are normal things on this planet. Like what do you have to? Maybe it's I saw a like 30 tentacle dimensional being. They're like get out of here. That doesn't exist.
I mean, talking about the inmates running the asylum, you know what I'm talking about? But the people want a pie on the line on this one, buddy. They want a pie.
They want a pie. Do you want to take the other side?
Wait. What's the other side? Is that
You
it's
have to take
playable.
it's gonna top eight something.
I think I learned my lesson on Blood Scrivener. I don't know if I did a pie bet on that guy, but I certainly feel like I got close. I really like that guy, and he was bad.
Yeah, so they're saying they think it's good. Do you want to trust your beloved Twitch chat that
No,
will
no, no.
turn on you like an angry mob?
No, I'm not saying they're saying it's good. I'm saying they want a pie bet. That's different. We're going to keep moving. Behind the scenes is a black and 2 generic mana, uncommon enchantment. Creatures you control have Skulk, which for me means like if this ability is on an uncommon enchantment, it's not even that good to start with. However, for a white and 4 generic mana, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So it's kind of a weird anthem. It's kind of a weird evasive thing, sorta.
Card seems pretty bad. Paying 5 mana for a +1/+1 is not a great rate.
Well, think about it, that you had to pay 3 mana just to make it happen, and then you had to pay 5 mana just to get the +1/+1. So you have to imagine either the Skulk is worth that 3 mana, which I'm not really sure it is, and then you had to pay 5 on top of it. It's one thing when it was attached to a 1-white 1/1 in Battle for Zendikar, but being attached to an enchantment here, eh.
No, I don't like it. But I do have to say, a question for Twitch chat: are you guys getting this Final Fantasy VI Sid vibe? Like, I kind of feel like this is just Sid from FF6. Anyone that's played the game, just let me know.
Yeah.
Card kind of feels like that character.
Fair enough. Behold the Beyond is next. It is a mythic sorcery for 2 black and 5 generic mana. You discard your hand, you search your library for 3 cards, put those into your hand, and then you shuffle your library. Pretty expensive stuff. Meh.
Yeah, I don't know when I'd want this effect. I mean, by turn 7, you probably don't have a hand, so it is just draw 3. Maybe it's good enough for limited. It does seem very powerful because it just gets 3 cards. I do think that it'll be fine in limited. It does seem like a very powerful effect, but I couldn't see
Yeah.
any constructive application.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly, like, in Limited, you want to get to 7, you want to empty your hand and then play this, or you want to empty your hand with this and have all those sweet madness triggers if they're free or something. But otherwise, certainly in Constructed, like, I don't get it. I don't think it's going to happen. It's just too expensive, but it's a cute card.
Yeah.
That's all. That's what I got for you. Got cute.
It's a cute mythic rare of Black Desert Twisters.
Biting Rain is next. This is our Infest variant, as we have to have them every single block now. For 2 black and 2 generic mana, it's an uncommon sorcery. All creatures get -2/2 until end of turn. But for Madness, it's a black and 2 generic mana. So for Madness, you get it for 3 mana. For 4 mana, you can just go ahead and play it. I do like the art though. I like that dude. That dude with his face.
Yeah, just like getting burned. And I love the flavor text too on Innistrad. It's seldom wrong to stay indoors.
Yeah, just like real life, right?
Yeah.
Ah, ah. So much like all of those infest effects, I would note that I think I've seen a lot more like 3 toughness, 4 toughness, and above type creatures in this block. Just looking through all the cards and whatnot, in that this could very well not do a lot when you get around to finally drawing it or wanting to play it.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, infest effects have always been like sideboard playable in both limited and constructed, and I feel like this is just going to be the same. You might board this in against somebody that has enough flyers that aren't 2/3s, or that a lot of the black creatures that are zombie based do have higher toughnesses, but sometimes you might not. It's going to deal with a lot of the flyers that you want that are you're having problems with. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. It's just like
We're just saying words at this point, aren't we?
yeah, if your opponent has a lot of 2 toughness creatures and you don't bring it in, I don't know. Like,
If your opponent's just playing dorks and you want to undork them all, just redork with bite and rain. Just dork it up. You turn into a southern, gentleman there in the middle of that, but it's fine. It's whatever. Call of the Bloodline is a black and a generic uncommon enchantment. For 1 generic mana, discard a card, put a 1/1 black vampire knight creature token with lifelink onto the battlefield. You can only do this once each turn because this is the big madness enabler. This is the big uncommon that kind of ties, the deck together and lets you have a bunch of sweet madness cards, gives you the sweet enabler, lets you make lifelinkers, which is cool. This seems to me like very specifically worded in a certain way. I can also imagine just the way it reads and the way it looks that maybe there was a time in which it was just discard a card, and didn't have the mana cost on top of it, but they had to add a mana cost because it's probably just too good.
yeah, or the sorcery. Like development might have done a lot to this card, but
Sure.
I do like that it is a good madness enabler. So cards like this are very good with madness. If you have a ton of those effects, you're going to get the value out of them. So I do like this card.
Right. I mean, like in my long time now, 2 decades, brush some shoulders off, experience. I think I see the seams where, like, for me, it's the mana cost on top of the activation ability, and it's also the activate this ability only once each turn. Looks to me like a very development added thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, that was really amazing when I could do it 3 times in 1 turn. It's like, okay, we'll make you stop doing that because that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Creeping Dread is next. It's a weird mind game. It's very kind of rare in Magic to have this type bluffing effect. It's a black and 3 generic mana for an uncommon enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player discards a card. Each opponent who discarded a card that shares a card type with the card you discarded loses 3 life. So let's just kind of roll that back because it's kind of a lot of words and there's a lot of players and a lot of types and a lot of cards. You're both going to choose the card you want to discard. You have to both choose it, and then you reveal simultaneously. And if you discard a land, they discard a land, they lose 3 life. So this is that weird, there's that moment where you're like looking at them, and you're like, all right, Creeping Dread on the stack, go. And you look through your hand, and you kind of pick the card, and then they kind of look at you, and they pick the card, and then you have that moment, and then you see if you got them or not.
Is nothing a card type? Because I feel like this card is very solvable. Your just opponent should just dump their hand.
It's probably solvable, and it's
Yeah.
really awkward when they have a madness card. It's really awkward. Yeah, so that's a thing. I don't know. Ultimately, probably not that good because of that, but I think it's a really
No,
interesting
it's
card.
just a flavorful card. I do not play this card.
Yeah, it's bad. All right,
Do
moving
not
on.
play it.
Crow of Dark Tidings is your premium delirium enabler. It's a black and 2 generic mana for a 2/1 common zombie bird. A zombie bird.
We've had zombie birds in the past, and they've all been great.
Yeah. So this is a 3 mana 2/1 flyer. When it enters the battlefield or dies, you put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. So there's always that weird feeling where when something mills me or something has to mill me, I feel like I'm losing something, even though the top of my library is just as random as the middle or the bottom of my library. It's always weird. Just to me, you know what I mean? Like when I mill like 2 sweet spells, I go like, oh my god, I totally missed out.
And I bet you also thought the 6 packs you registered at a sealed event were yours.
Well, they're not.
No, Evan, they're not.
But I
They're the
want them to
tournaments.
be.
Once they pass them around, those are yours. Someone else registered yours. But yeah, like
Fine.
that is definitely an effect that a lot of players have in Magic, and that is just wrong. You have to just get over that. That the top two cards of your library are different than any other cards in your deck, and if you mill over one of your best cards and you can't get it back, you feel like that like was a bad effect. But those also could have been two dead cards, and your best card was 8 cards down, and now you're going to get to it in time before the game's over.
Yeah.
Like it's just randomness, and you just cannot let it affect your decision making. Like it actually helps because it does affect your decision making. If you like mill over your best card in your deck, you at least know you'll never draw it. Therefore, do not play towards it.
Well, that's a way to look at it.
Well, that's yeah, it's optimism.
Now you've lost the best thing. You might as well know you've lost the best thing and be, again, I understand it. I know that it's a thing that I shouldn't think and I shouldn't focus on. It's weird that it feels bad, but it always makes me feel a little bad when I mill like the sweet removal spell I was waiting on. When it could have very well have just milled 2 lands, and I've been really happy about it. Dang it. Deadweight is coming back from the original Innistrad. It's a 1 black common aura enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets -2/-2. It's a good old-fashioned disfigure in the form of an enchantment, which helps Delirium. Thanks. Take a drink. And yeah, it's a good card. You always drafted it. You always played it. It was always very good. And I have no qualms seeing it again.
Yeah, no, this card's awesome at Delirium. Very good Magic card. I like seeing it come back. It was a really cool, flavorful card from the last set. Except this is actually for anyone that has ever heard of flavor drafting, like Luis Scott Vargas, old Channel Fireball team flavor draft stuff. This was the original card that started all of that because when we were playing with this card testing for Pro Tour Honolulu, it was Luis and I like came to the conclusion that this card should give creatures with power less than 3 after the dead weight came to effect. It should lose flying. Like a dragon can have this ball and chain flying around, but like a Chapelgeist as an O1 now should not have flying anymore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Because it brought it all the way.
Yeah, this is the original flavor draft card.
Wow. Otherwise, it's very much playable as usual. Probably not going to see constructed play, but
It will.
But 1 black for -2/-2, that's usually a good rate.
Well, I don't know if you know this, Evan, but Delirium is also standard.
Nuh-uh.
and must be fueled.
It must be fueled by what?
I don't know what do you put in the Back to the Future vehicle so
you put
Jace
eggs,
could save.
soda.
Yeah, so Jace could save this world.
Exactly. You put like the egg carton because who cares? Because the egg carton fuels Delirium. Jace, it's about your kids. Jace, we have to save your children. All right. Diagraph Colossus is next. This card is fantastic. It's a black and 2 generic mana for a 2/2. We're not starting fantastic, but we're getting there. It's a rare zombie giant. It enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter for each zombie card in your graveyard, and whenever you cast a zombie spell, you put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield tapped. So it can start out huge. It can make more dudes as you continue to play all of your sweet zombies. There's some really sweet zombies in the set. There's some great mythic zombie that we'll get to here later. That's amazing. So this is really cool. And there's like a sort of like a pseudo cycle. We talked about Thalia's Lieutenant. Now we have Diagraph Colossus. We'll get to the green one where I get to have like a short rant, which I kind of had a short rant in the Magic show about. It's fine, whatever. But this one is really sweet. And ultimately it's like, I don't know about Bomb Rare is kind of iffy in the world of limited, but it's a very good card.
Yeah, it seems like a good card because it can come down, not get any of the effect from the graveyard, but then it'll get all of the effect from casting it. And that's really where this and Thalia's Lieutenant happen is they're good. They have abilities to be the first of their creature type, and they have good abilities of being the last.
Sure.
And is the art actually just a big cage full of zombies, though?
Dude, it's straight up Wicker Man full of zombies.
Yeah, it's so awesome.
Dude, it's fan-freaking-tastic. And they're all, like, tied to the wood and stuff. Like, it's crazy. Super awesome card. I love it. It's good. You should always play it. It's not a card that, like, you're like, oh, my God, Windmill Slam, I have to now draft zombies. But, it's not a bad card to build around. Ever After is next. Now, this one, again, flavor win. Absolutely fantastic. It's double Zombify. It's 2 black, 4 generic mana for a rare sorcery. You return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. Each of those creatures is now a black zombie, in addition to their other colors and types. And then, interestingly enough, you put Ever After on the bottom of its owner's library. You don't exile it, you don't just let it go to the graveyard, you put it on the bottom of your library. That's very rare and unique.
Yeah, there's a couple cards that have that actually.
Yeah.
And this can be discussed since it was a deck that we already threw away. But this card spawned one of my favorite deck names of all time. Jerry Thompson built a deck called Dragon Love, which was animating Kolagon and Dragon Lord Atarka and attacking for 14.
Wow.
Because Kolagon gives haste.
Right.
But I just love that it was just a deck we called Dragon Love.
Dragon Love. Aww. Yeah. With hearts and everything?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Now, in Limited, this thing can basically be a sweet bomb. It's able to bring back your best 2 creatures. It's able to be the last spell that you play, which is going to have a huge impact. Zombify already was a good card. This, obviously being twice as much for not even twice the price, is that much better.
Yeah, very good.
Absolutely. Farbog Revenant is one of those good old-fashioned type weird filler cards. It's a black and 2 generic mana for a 1/3 common spirit that has Skulk and Lifelink. Okay.
I actually really like this card because, like, what's going to block it? I guess, like, Inspector Gadget can block this card pretty well, but you're still gaining a life. But, like, it just seems tough. So, like, I do think that this card could see play. I don't know why or how, but it doesn't seem that bad in Limited.
In Limited, maybe. I think the problem is that, like, all the spirit stuff, or all the kind of like the sweet spirit stuff anyway, I think is in white and blue. And this kind of...
yeah, it doesn't matter about the tribalness of the card. I just think a 1/3 lifelink with Skulk is a very good rate.
It's a good rate, and ultimately I can certainly imagine sideboarding it in versus anything remotely aggressive.
Or slow, actually. If the boards clog up a lot, it just keeps getting in.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that it's not super impressive, but if you have like a pump spell or 2, you're able to get in, now it's not blocked, and then use your pump spell, that's cool, you can gain more life. It could potentially be a lot better than it looks.
Yeah, I think it is going to play a lot better than it looks.
Excuse me. All right, so From Under the Floorboards is next. Again, one of the best card names ever. It's 2 black, 3 generic mana. It's a rare sorcery that puts 3 2/2 black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield, and you gain 3 life. However, it has Madness, just like Welcome to the Fold. It's this 2 black and X, and if From Under the Floorboards Madness cost was paid, instead you put X of those tokens onto the battlefield tapped, and you gain X life. This is a card that I've seen a lot of people talk about like rumbles for Constructed. Like, first of all, this card is like Limited ridiculous and is amazing. But could this get there in Constructed?
I think it could, because it's just another card that works really well with Jace. It also doesn't seem like the worst rate in the world to just get 6/6 and 3 life for 5 mana.
Right.
It's not the worst rate, but if you can Madness this really deep into the game, it seems exceptionally powerful.
Right, and in a world with Jace's, like basically you can pay its mana cost, its basic mana cost, at Madness speed, and still get all of that bonus. You're still getting the 3 guys, you're still getting the 3 life. But if you have more mana, it just gets better and better.
Yeah, I do think this card has a lot of potential.
Yeah, this card is super cool, but again, in Limited, this thing is huge. This thing is fantastic, and it's great every time you got it. Ghoulcaller's Accomplice is a black and a generic mana for a 2/2. It's a common human rogue, and for when it's in your graveyard, for a black and 3 generic mana, you may exile it and put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. You can only do that during, when you can cast a sorcery. So, this is another one of those flashbackian, if you will, type spells.
Flashbackian.
Yeah, flashbackian. What's going on with that? But it's a 2 mana 2/2. So no matter what, like when we're on 2 mana 2/2 space, like already playable because it fits on the curve. When you can do things later, even if it costs more mana, it's totally worth it, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, this card is just a good 2-drop. I think every copy of this in a draft will get played.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's
just very good rate.
Yeah, this is the 2-drop you want when you're playing a black deck, no matter if it's black or blue, black or white, whatever. This is a guy.
Black or green, black or red. We don't discriminate on colors that you can play this in.
All the colors, black and multicolor, black and artifacts. All right. Ghoulsteed. Ghoulsteed's really interesting. Ghoulsteed is a black and 4 generic mana for a 4/4 zombie horse. A zombie horse. It's an uncommon zombie horse at that. And for a black and 2 generic mana, you may discard 2 cards, return it from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So it's a 4/4 that never goes away, which to me sounds like this card is awesome.
Yeah, I think like this uncommon, we've seen the 3/1 flyer for 4, now we've seen this 4/4 for 5. These cards are going to be very good because they're madness and late enablers in the late game, and they have good upfront stats. So, like we're just going to see this like rot in the graveyard until you can have a madness effect, or if you're just flooding, you have something to do with your mana, and that's really what and why I was talking about how we're going to see all these late game effects and stuff like that, because a lot of things don't die on Innistrad, and the clues are going to keep generating card advantage, and you're going to have decks that are just going to draw a couple extra lands but have things from the graveyard to utilize with them. And so, like, all these effects are going to make for long games of Limited, which I really enjoy.
Right, but you know, when you keep on like that, you're trying to beat a dead horse. You get that, right?
How long you been waiting on that one? Just how long?
No, I got to give it up. Asawa_chuckles from chat. You got me. You got
Beat
me.
the dead horse.
You
yeah.
understood. I loved it. Absolutely fantastic. I can't, any horse with red eyes is already unbelievably creepy.
Yeah.
It doesn't need like weird skin to hang off, but the dead horse thing, that was a fantastic one. All right. Gisa's Bidding is 2 black, 2 generic mana for an uncommon sorcery that puts 2/2/2 black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield, but you can madness it for a black and 2 generic mana. So for 3 mana, you can get 2 2/2s, and that's hot fire.
Or is it Biting Rain?
Oh, hey,
Because it's the exact same casting cost.
It is the exact same casting cost, but
Yep.
I think it's a way better card. Just me personally, like putting 2 2/2s for 4 mana is fine, but 2 2/2s for 3 mana is way better. Feels better.
Yeah, this might be one of the best uncommons in black for the set, just because getting 4 power for 4 mana is great, and the madness is pretty reasonable. Also, flash 2/2 zombies could make or break a game of Limited.
Yeah.
I really do think that this card is phenomenal.
And they do come into play untapped, and that's kind of a big thing. A lot of times, what had happened in the past was that you make all these cool zombie tokens, but they were always coming to play tapped, and that's a problem because they couldn't block.
They just haven't. Wizards hasn't made up their mind, but I think they finally said they're coming into play untapped, because we haven't seen one come into play tapped for a while. Yes, they're still in standard.
Well,
but like
we
they
just talked
keep
about
going
one
back
in
and
blue,
forth.
though.
You mean the actual card does?
Yeah. Oh, you're
Well,
talking about the tokens at this point.
The tokens, yes.
I see. The tokens, yeah, I think the tokens are now officially coming into play untapped.
Yeah, the necromancers are just getting better.
Yeah, they are. They're getting better at what they do. Grotesque Mutation, one hella creepy card. Jesus. Good God, I took the glove off and I have a mouth on my hand.
Yeah, Embercool's here. I don't think we need to investigate any further.
Oh God. Ugh. Though under the floorboards also came into play tapped. Regardless,
Oh, did they?
I think they did. I'm gonna
No,
go
they
back.
do. I don't get why they have
From under
both.
the floorboards, right?
They do come into play tap. Why do they do both? It's confusing. I just feel like on the competitive level, the mistakes are going to be made, but like at the casual level, it just feels like they're all like it's so confusing to me.
I understand because like ultimately it allows them to kind of tweak the card's power level, whether they come into play untapped and tapped.
Yeah.
I understand it's another lever for the development guys to pull, and that's cool. And that rhymed. Grotesque Mutation, however, is a black and a generic mana for a common instant. Target creature gets +3/+1 and gains lifelink until end of turn. This is another one of those like high power, low toughness things. You're turning your hand into a mouth.
Yeah, just a succubus thing. Like,
That's horrible. That's
Yeah, it's
horrible.
awful.
Good God. Ugh. But ultimately, it's like one of those tricks that, like, because it doesn't regenerate the creature, it has to more or less be unblocked, or you're trying to trade up. It's kind of a removal spell, but kind of not. You know, it's like how all those pump spells kind of are.
mm-hmm.
And sometimes they're not the right numbers, and you're like, or if you're like, if it could just pump 2 toughness instead of 1 toughness, it would be great. But no.
It's fine. I don't know. It probably doesn't see a lot of play.
But hey,
Not a,
mouth on hand, yo. Mouth on hand. Hound of the Farbogs. Ooh, the Farbogs. Is a black and 4 generic mana for a 5/3 common zombie hound. Woo! And all it has is a delirium effect. So you got to have delirium turned on. However, it has menace as long as you have delirium, which would make it a 5 mana 5/3 menace, which still kind of isn't that good.
Yeah, it's not good. I don't know what to say about this card. Like it's fine stats. It's gonna be unplayable, really.
It's
I don't.
pretty. To me, it's just basically unplayable. It's bad, and it's there to teach you lessons.
Yeah, not good.
If you play it, you're going to feel bad. Don't do that. Indulgent Aristocrat is a 1 black mana 1/1 lifelinker. However, you can pay 2 generic mana and sacrifice a creature colon to put a +1/+1 counter on each vampire you control. That each word is important.
Yes, very.
That each, tell you what, that each will get you there. There's a reason this is uncommon, because if it only said put a counter on a vampire you control, we'd be over here like saying blah blah blah, this card's not worth it, yada yada. But now it's each, and that's totally different.
Yeah, it really is. I still don't know how good this card is going to be because vampires don't grow on trees like zombies do.
Well, but
But
they can play together,
well, they can play together. Oh, it's sacrifice a creature. I thought it was sacrifice a vampire.
right?
Oh yeah, this card's gross.
Dude,
I
this
thought it was
card-
sacrifice a vampire.
Like, and it puts a counter on itself. Like,
Yeah,
this card is the business.
yeah. If you're not a vampire, you really don't want to go to this guy's party.
No. But
It
he's
just does not seem like a good time.
well. I mean, check out the sweet like Tower of Blood glasses. That's amazing.
Yeah, no, the art is really cool.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. You know, he's killing something and then he's spreading around that love. He's spreading around the blood and the glasses. It's all very thematic. Ultimately, this card is very good, very powerful. One of the best uncommons I've seen so far.
Mhm.
Very powerful. Liliana's Indignation. She is indignating this. Liliana's Indignation is a black and X generic mana. It is an uncommon sorcery to put the top X cards of your library into your graveyard. Target player loses X life for each creature card put into your graveyard this way. It's not very good in my opinion.
It is not, but I also this brings up a question that I have. I didn't know Liliana was from Innistrad or still on Innistrad. I thought she just came there to kill Bristlebrand and then she pieced out.
Well, days ago, Jace came to her door asking for help. And yet now, he's here with accusations.
I mean, yes, I can read too.
Oh,
But
I see how it is. Wow. The daggers come out at 12:30 at night, y'all.
oh yeah, I'm getting a little tired.
He's getting
But-
pissed.
but no, like anyone in the Twitch chat can help. Like I don't really know. I thought she wasn't here. Now
Well-
she's been in the background in zombie stuff, but
She's from Dominaria. Thank you, Twitch chat. I appreciate it.
yep.
But, yeah, I honestly, they didn't really mention her. They kept saying Tamio, they kept saying Nahiri, they kept saying Soren, and okay.
But that was
this
the
guy.
storyline. She just came here to kill Gristlebrand so she could keep all her power, right? Like that was the old one.
I read
But
that.
now she's back.
I got nothing.
It's probably just a development thing. It's like we need a new Liliana, or we need to bring back Liliana. We need Liliana the Veil's stat.
So how playable do you think this thing even is in Limited? Like,
It's pretty bad. I couldn't see it. I mean, it does fuel delirium, but
wow. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's where we're at.
I mean, if you have like 8 mana and 7 cards left in your library, your opponent's at 6, and you have 3 creatures in your deck, they are dead.
They are so dead. That
Yeah.
card is horrible. Macabre Waltz is a lot more interesting now than it was in Guild Pack when it first showed up. A black and a generic mana for a common sorcery that returns up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand, then you discard a card. Now, a ton of creatures in the black and or red space have madness. So the ability to play 2 black, get back 2 creatures, one of them has madness, you discard that one, quote unquote, then you play that one, which is awesome. Love it. I love everything about it. This card is way better now in Shadows over Innistrad than it ever was back in the day.
Yeah, no, this card is going to be very good in this format.
Yeah, this card was. It just got like back in the day, Macabre Waltz, or Macabre Waltz, or however you want to say it, got was like a pass out. It wasn't very good. Because you would kind of lose the advantage. You would get some creatures, and you'd be like, "Well, I don't want to discard, like the creatures I got because I need the creatures, but I don't want to get rid of this other stuff." Well, now you want to discard the creatures because they have madness.
Yeah, or a spell that has madness.
Sure. So Macabre Waltz is a thing. It also, and I know this is really kind of weird, but it's kind of cool to see things like Liliana's armpit.
What?
I know it's
You
weird.
don't say that.
It's just like, look.
what?
It's just like seeing. Like, have you ever seen Liliana's back? Like, it's a very rare experience. It's a very rare thing.
I can't wait to see Jace's feet.
Well, you don't always see these types of things. I'm just saying. The chat is blowing up. I love it. Woo! All right, Markov Dread Knight is 2 black.
Look at those knees.
Shut up! All right. Markov Dread Knight is 2 black, 3 generic mana for a 3/3 rare vampire knight that has flying. For a black and 2 generic mana, you discard a card : to put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. A nice example of great and limited, bad and constructed. Best I can figure.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be good and limited. It's never going to get blocked. If they kill it, fine, whatever. You don't really dump your hand into it unless they're dead. Yeah, it's good.
Oh man, that's fantastic.
Is the chat still going
The
up?
chat's still going, dude. I can't handle it. Oh my god, it's so good. Woo! All right. Merciless Resolve is a black and 2 generic mana for a common instant. I love this card. As an additional cost to cast it, you sacrifice a creature or a land, and you draw 2 cards. You know why I love this card, Brad? What rarity is that?
Common.
Yeah, it is. You know what he plays in that? See some Popper up at her. Yeah. Popper go. Popper, yeah. Green black sacrifice wants a card exactly like this. Is fantastic. I love it. Like, all the cards will persist. All the guys with Undying. This is the card you use with them. It's also at instant speed. Totally love this card. It's great. So it's really cool in Pauper. In Innistrad, it helps fuel Delirium.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. It seems like a good sideboard card, like these effects, when your opponent has a lot of enchantment removal. So that the creatures stick around, but they're technically dead, and you can then sacrifice them when you draw this card.
Sure. Now, Altar's Reap does exist, as Chad mentioned. Thank you very much. But it also can't sacrifice a land. That's another big thing. A land is also a type that's kind of hard to get in your graveyard when you want to, and this is the type of card that lets you do that. So that's a thing. Just saying.
Yep.
Mind Rack Demon is next. It is 2 black, 2 generic mana for a mythic 4/5 demon with flying and trample, and when it enters the battlefield, you mill the top 4 cards of your library, and at the beginning of your upkeep, if you don't have Delirium, you're losing 4 life. So this was the card that was spoiled as a part of the duel deck, and I think everyone kind of went, eh, and then they moved on.
You know what other card everyone went and moved on?
Pelucranos.
Siege Rhino.
Siege Rhino. Really?
I mean,
it didn't take long for everyone to go like, this card is completely bananas. And I want to think it was like Chapin who was like, no guys, for real, this card is bananas.
Yeah, but like this card I also think is bananas.
Yeah?
It is a 4/5 flyer for 4 mana. The deck can be built to get Delirium pretty easily and constructed if you work hard at it.
Sure.
And the stats are unbelievable, and Languish is a card. So I think that a 4/5 flyer for 4 is, I mean, flying trample. Like I don't know what else we need to make a good Magic card. Also, like, even if you don't hit Delirium, sometimes the opponent's just going to kill it before you untap anyway.
Right. Well, I mean, it is a flying Rhino ultimately, right?
Yeah, I think this card is very good.
Yeah.
I own my set already.
Sure. Well, there you go. So
I think the card's really good.
I think the card is very good. I'm not saying the card's bad. I'm just kind of going like, eh. Everyone's kind of like going, eh. Like, you know, they're in the like, will it actually work phase. Like, Archangel Avacyn, no question, card is cray-cray. Mind Rack Demon, okay.
This card holds up against Avacyn really well, also in a color that's good against it. So I don't know. I think this card is very good.
I want it to be good. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, I bet.
No. I think it's a good card.
All right.
Unless you want to pie bet that it won't make it.
No.
See what happens. We need more delve things so I can get real pie bets in against you. Dig Through Time. Remember that one? Yeah. That's good times. That's good. First
the
weekend.
The one time.
Shut up, Brad. That's good. All right. Morkrut Necropod. Really, Wizards. Morkrut Necropod is a black and 5 generic mana 7/7 with Menace. And whenever it attacks or blocks, you sacrifice another creature or a land. Okay. I mean, like, the weird turtle was one thing, but at least you can decide when you want to attack with this thing versus saying, like, I hope I draw a non-creature spell so I can turn on this thing.
This card's great.
Well,
it's got mana 7/7 with Menace.
It's got Menace, too. That seems nuts.
Yes, this card is very good.
Okay. This card is powerful. It is a slug horror. Yeah.
Yeah, very horror.
But slugs normally have big butts.
Let's get to Brian Kibler stabbing a guy.
Oh, Kibler's Murderous Compulsion. It's a black and a generic mana. It's a common sorcery that destroys target tapped creature. It has madness of a black and a generic mana. And yeah, once you say, like, that's Brian Kibler stabbing somebody, you go, holy crap, that's Brian Kibler stabbing somebody.
Yeah, it's just the actual behind the scenes of what happened to get him to a Pro Tour championship. Like, that's how he won his PTQ. It's the dark, dirty truth of the Kibler story. That's why there's a book about it.
It is the untold story.
Yeah.
Of the best looking man in Magic when he stabbed a guy. Awesome. Super cool card, though. Obviously, incredibly good, very powerful, very playable, works with all the madness stuff. Destroying a creature that's tapped is just assassinate for 3 mana, which we were happy to pay 3 mana for. Now it's just cheaper with a bonus.
And potentially instant speed.
Which is great.
Yeah, the card's awesome.
Olivia's Bloodsworn is next, and it's a black and a generic mana for an uncommon flying 2/1 vampire soldier that cannot block. However, for a red mana colon, it does gain haste until end of turn. So, okay.
Yeah, I think it's great. Like, it's just a welcome turn for black that's uncommon, but also can give vampires haste in a limited format, which is good.
Sure.
And yeah, I think the card's just a good limited card.
Man, I love me some welcome turn, dude.
Yeah, now you can play it in black.
Yay, that's great. I mean, it's a 2-power 2-drop that has evasion. It's going to be good. It certainly seems like there's a black-red aggro type deck, and this is the card for that deck.
Mm-hmm.
This is the off-color activation card for black, for red, that lets you, take advantage of that archetype. Pale Rider of Trostad. Trostad? Trostad. It's a black and a generic mana for a 3/3. It's an uncommon spirit. It has Skulk. However, when it enters the battlefield, you discard a card. However, as we know, madness exists. This is only 2 mana for a 3/3, and I would be happy to pay 2 mana for this and then madness out something else, and it's just, it's bacon on my cheeseburger. It's gravy on my taters. I mean, it's all good.
Yeah, I also like that this card works well with Macabre Walt. So, like, you can just throw the creature in, get it back later, madness something once you have the mana to do so. So as a 2 mana 3/3, this doesn't feel that bad.
This card does seem pretty pushed in terms of, like, it didn't need to be a 2 mana 3/3.
Yeah, or even discarding the other uncommon, the 3/1 lifelink, and then on turn 3 you can just make Lingering Souls.
Yeah.
Like, this card is going to be very good. It's a sophisticated card in the format. You're going to want to build around and design your deck to utilize it.
That's right. It's a sophisticated card, so you better treat it like a lady. You know what I'm saying?
It's also a beat horse, or beat stick.
It's
said horse because it's a horse.
It's beat horse stick.
Horse stick.
Horse stick. Hashtag horse stick. Pick the Brain. 1 black, 2 generic mana for an uncommon sorcery. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it, and you exile it. You don't just discard it. However, if you have Delirium, it does turn into Cranial Extraction, which you search their graveyard, hand, and library for any number of cards with the same name as that one, and you exile them as well. So that's great. What are you complaining about? Internet connection problem. Lame.
Are we not? Did we lose them?
I mean,
are they gone?
No, I don't think. It's saying Skype is having connection problems, but you're coming through just fine. Whatever, I don't care. Moving on. Pick the Brain. Well, like, I think we've learned ultimately that Cranial Extraction is just not that powerful. It's not that exciting. It was like, dude, Cranial Extraction back in the day was nuts, and everyone went crazy. And now it's just like, all right, let's put it on the Envelop spell. Let's put it on Pick the Brain because who cares? Like,
yeah,
whatever.
Still Pick the Brain, like, in a deck that's already based on Delirium. Could be a good sideboard card against control decks. And like the effect to make them discard, like transgress, might still just be better.
Sure.
Um, but I do like the possibility of just stripping a card from a card that you could still just pay for 3 and take card out of their hand.
Yeah. I mean, it's still fine. I mean, ultimately it's okay. It's no transgress, but it's good. I don't see it replacing it per se, but you know, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Me. I'll give it a me. Rancid Rats, because you know those are the kind of the rats I like, the rancid kind. It's a black and a generic mana for a 1/1 Skulk Death Touch, a common zombie rat. Yeah.
Yeah, Death Touch, this card is going to play really well. All Death Touch creatures have, like Typhoid Rats, have been good in the past. For 1 extra mana, you get Skulk, which is great because when you don't want to block with your Typhoid Rats, you can attack if they have no 1/1s.
Yeah, I mean, like the low mana cost rats that have Death Touch are always good. They hold off an entire army by themselves because no one wants to lose their best creature to a stupid 1/1. And yet they will.
Yeah,
And
they
yet,
eventually will.
and yet they will.
Yep.
Relentless Dead. Oh baby, we've hit it. 2 black mythic zombie. It's a 2 black 2/2 with menace. When it dies, you may pay a black if you do return it to its owner's hand. When it dies, you may pay X generic mana. If you do, return another target zombie creature card with converted mana cost X from your graveyard to the battlefield. You can return, like if you have 2 copies, they can start returning and recurring each other, which is nuts. It can block, which is huge. This card is easily one of the best of the set. I would not be surprised to see this in Modern and beyond because it's just the recursion abilities of this thing are ridiculous.
Yeah, I've been having difficulty finding the right home in construction for it, but it will find its home. I know that it's going to see play. I just need to figure this one out. To build around it is a little difficult.
Yep, which I totally understand. This stupid internet connection problem's not going away, but whatever, we got to keep rolling. Relentless Dead is a fantastic Magic card. I absolutely love it. It's one of those things that's like, you know, maybe we don't know the deck for it right now. Maybe it needs like Eldritch Moon to come out. Maybe we need dragons to rotate or something. But like, there's a world where this card is crazy, and I'm sure we're going to be entering it at some point.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's busted.
That card is nuts. Rotten Heart Ghoul. Directly from the bottom of his little rotten heart, we have a black and 3 generic mana for a 2/4 that when he dies, target player discards a card. Really interesting. I love the fact that because Madness is back, target player actually matters. It's not just like, well, my opponent's going to yob. Well, maybe if your opponent's played a bunch of Madness crap, you're not going to let them discard a card. Or you got a Madness thing that's really great, or like maybe a Welcome to the Fold type card where you want to discard a card and you go, yes, please, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, the card's really interesting.
Yeah, the card's really cool. Again, just as a 4 mana 2/4, it's great. Like the blue one investigated when they enter the battlefield. This one makes a player discard a card when it leaves. But both of them have their like really interesting kind of design choices.
Mm-hmm.
I really like it. It's sweet. All right, we're going to move on to Sanitarium Skeleton. I've heard a lot of good things about this in Limited. It's a black mana 1/2 common skeleton for a black and 2 generic mana : you may return it from your graveyard to your hand. So it may not look like much, but this guy just keeps coming back over and over and over again.
Yeah, there have been upgraded versions of this card in the past, but it doesn't seem like the worst stats. The problem is it is just an infinite jump blocker.
Sure.
And I don't think the best limited decks are just going to be, I got to get all my damage done on the ground anyway.
Sure. I mean,
so this card just might just become irrelevant.
Well, I mean, and as the chat has correctly noted, I saw Kenji Numatanami, talking about how this card was an MVP and it worked really well for him, and I'm glad for that.
In what? How has he played it?
Well, he was playing it like the pre-release thing on Loading Ready Run.
What? I don't even.
They did a pre-release. They did a pre-release live on camera with the Loading Ready Run guys and some other people. So.
Oh, like Moto or real life?
Like real life, and they filmed it.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, it was really cool. No, it's madness. All right. You're welcome. Anyway, Sanitarium Skeleton apparently was a good thing for him, and that's great. But again, this to me was one of those cards that I was like, I know it doesn't look like much, but it probably has a lot of really cool applications that you don't see until you start putting all the pieces together.
Yeah, I mean, it might be fine. I don't feel like it's gonna it might save you in a game where you're like hitting them in the air, they're trying to attack on the ground, but it's still every revolution to your turn. It takes 4 mana to do this, and yes, sometimes you can pay it up front, sometimes you can pay it later during your turn. Um, but I don't know. I never feel like a 1 mana 1/2 that has recursion is gonna like be the defining part of my limited
No,
deck.
and I'm not saying it's going to define a limited deck. What I'm saying is like think of all the cards that we've read that say like discard a card to do something.
That is true.
You
Yeah.
discard this card, you get it back, you do it again, you get it back, and so on and so forth. This is the type of card where I see those really shining.
Yeah, that is true.
So, shamble back. You got a little shambly. Got to get shamble crazy up in here.
Bring in Shamble back. I thought that's where you were going to go with that.
No, that's where you were going to go with that.
Okay, sure.
It's 1 black mana for a common sorcery. It exiles target creature card in a graveyard. You put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield, untapped, and you gain 2 life. Eh?
Yeah, I mean, this is
Eh?
going to help. I think it's going to be a cyber card against things like skeletons and other effects that are in the graveyard. Like, there are just creatures that, the flashback to flashback.
Right.
Um, and so these cards could help beat those cards out of the graveyard.
Yeah, I mean, like, and as chat noted, like, Vile Rebirth existed, but now it's a sorcery instead of an instant, and now you get to gain 2 life on top of it.
Yep.
Eh. It's still kind of eh. Sinister Concoction is hilarious in and of itself. It is a 1 black mana uncommon enchantment. You pay a black, a life, you mill the top card of your library, you discard a card, and you sack it to destroy target creature. Which means this card is fantastic because it doesn't matter how many hoops you got to jump through. At the end of the yellow brick road, I'm killing that thing. I don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like, yeah, it works great with madness, but I would still happily discard this, no problem. Or discard another card, no problem, even if it didn't have madness, because if I gotta kill a thing, I gotta kill a thing.
Yeah, but this does seem like a very good limited card.
Yeah, it's super crazy good.
Yeah.
Stallion of Ashmouth is a black and 3 generic mana 3/3 common nightmare horse, as they do. It has no other abilities but a delirium ability, which is a black and a generic mana colon. It gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So it's something that is basically a mana sink late in the game when you got delirium and you want to just make this thing into a 5/5 or a 6/6, and that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, this card's late game potential is just unbelievably good.
Yeah.
I feel like this is one of the 4 drops you're looking for in your black decks.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those, like, it fills out the curve, right? Like, you got a lot of 3s, and maybe even you got a lot of 5s, and you're like, I just need a good 4-drop. This is a good 4-drop.
Yeah.
I will take a Heal Giant with upside, thank you. Stromkirk Mentor is a black and 3 generic mana 4/2. It's a common vampire soldier, and when it enters the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on another target vampire you control. Not like that uncommon one we talked about that put a counter on all the vampires you control. This one just does the one. This is also a 4 mana 4/2, so it's already kind of eh. And I'm already kind of like going, well, maybe it's probably bad, is my guess. But
I do think that this is on the spectrum of bad. It might be good if you have a ton of vampires just to give other ones better stats, but
right.
I mean, maybe giving a flying vampire +1/+1 is pretty good. You definitely really have to be themed.
Right. So, I mean, maybe in the black-red, like, super aggressive deck, this is
Yeah.
where you want to be with your 4-drop, like, pumping your other guy and getting in there and all that good stuff. But ultimately, whenever I see a 4/2, it better be pretty freaking good in order for me to play it.
Yeah.
Moving on, we have Throttle. Throttle comes back. This was this from Khan's block?
Oh, don't quiz me. I know it was earlier than that.
Well, now the chat can tell me.
Yeah, I know it was cons, but I know it also had an initial printing as well.
However, Throttle is a 1 black and 4 generic mana common instant. Target creature gets -4/-4 until end of turn. It was great then. It's great now. It's good removal. It's decent in terms of cost versus what you get. You're pretty much always going to play it because it's a good removal spell.
Yeah, good generic removal. Not a lot of 5 drops in the format anyway because of madness and having to activate and stuff like that. So it'll see a lot of play.
Nice. Apparently it was in Cons or it was in Dragons. I can't remember. There's not a lot of...
Or both, I think.
Or maybe both.
I
Maybe.
think Throttle was actually just in both.
Nice.
I think that might have been one of the cards.
Next up,
Maybe not.
speaking of good removal spells, To the Slaughter is next. A black and 2 generic mana rare instant. Target player sacrifices a creature or a planeswalker. But if you got Delirium, you get them both. So I got Delirium, thanks for your Gideon and his token, go.
Yeah, pretty much. I do think that this card is going to see some standard play, because Delirium and killing a Planeswalker is such a big benefit, and Hero's Downfall is so clunky. And I also, whenever I've seen this art, it just reminds me of the last Pro Tour, where the big monster is just anyone who brought Eldrazi, and the lamb is just all of us innocent, not knowing how good it was. Like, that's just what it feels like to me. First time I saw it, I was like, To the Slaughter. And I was like, that was the last Pro Tour. I can't wait for the next one.
Well, there you go, buddy. Like, To the Slaughter, however, just one of the best edicts I've ever seen. Also love the fact that Wizards is getting more comfortable with putting Planeswalker-specific stuff on cards.
Oh, you went a way different path. I thought it was just Wizards is getting more comfortable with killing wonderfully cute animals.
And that too, and slaughtering they were like, please, Miss Christine Choi, could you make that thing the most adorable looking thing ever, and make that
Just
creature,
slaughter it.
yeah, and make that creature the most horrific, god awful nightmare fuel. Okay, great,
Yeah.
good job, you got there. All right, so moving on, we're going to look at Tooth Collector, because go from killing the most cute things ever to collecting teeth. A black and 2 generic mana 3/2. It's an uncommon human rogue. When it enters the battlefield, target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1 until end of turn. And if you have Delirium at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, target creature that player controls gets -1/-1 until end of turn. So this is basically a bomb uncommon.
Yeah, very good uncommon. Right away, it's going to come in, potentially killing a spirit or a vampire or something small. And then as the game goes on, it's going to be able to make the biggest threat. Well, it could kill additional creatures with its Delirium ability, but it can also make their threat that's attacking you deal you 1 less damage, or maybe even be too small to attack.
Absolutely, and sometimes that 1 toughness, 1 power really matter. And this is the card that's going to show you the power of that little tiny tweak, because I want to play this guy in every black deck that I can get him into.
Yeah.
This card is super, super good and limited, and he'll stay that way. Triskaidekaphobia is next. A black and 3 generic mana for a rare enchantment that's just got flavor all over this thing. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose one. Each player with exactly 13 life loses the game, then each player gains a life. Or each player with exactly 13 life loses the game, and then each player loses 1 life. So, first of all, we have to talk about how silly and ridiculous the number 13 is. There's 13 like little blood splatter that are flowing down the wall. There's 13 stones in the hearth. There's 13 tools that are up on the shed. There's 13 pieces of glass there in the bottom. There's 13 pieces of wood like this. There's all sorts of 13s everywhere.
There's 13 minutes of my life wasted on already hearing about this card.
Triskaidekaphobia, for those who don't know, is the fear of the number 13. I appreciate very, very much that this card exists. I think it's fantastic.
I appreciate it too, and I really do love the flavor of it, but it loses its muster after seeing it once to me. Like, the first time I saw it, I was like, this is cool, right?
Sure.
But I'm over it. I'm sorry.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I'm just it's cool, and I hope I never have to worry about this card ever again. But the one cool thing I will like about it is all the art, yes, 13, everything's 13. They did it right. But I do love that the name is the fear of number 13, and in play, both players become. So that's what I really love about the flavor of the card. The art's whatever, but the card literally is what the text on the card does.
Sure. I mean, yeah, and that's interesting. I mean, the other thing that I agree with the chat is the best part ever is that even the artist's name is 13 letters.
Is that intentional?
Of course it's intentional.
Really? The name of the artist?
Absolutely. Come on now. Can you only imagine? Like, they're just eating it up with a spoon in terms of like, all right, we got Triskaidekaphobia. We got to 13 this thing out. I only wish that the abilities itself were 13 words, but it's okay that they're not. It's all right, Wizards. It's okay. But
No, the abilities themselves?
right, each player with exactly 13 life, blah, blah, blah.
It is if you take out the numbers, all the words equal 13.
There
There
are
are 13 specific words
13
in each of them.
words. Very, very good. Very nice. Twins of Mar Estate. I love this card, first of all, because it got the twins from the Shining up in here. It's a black and 4 generic mana for a 3/5. It's a common vampire with madness of a black and 2 generic mana. So, so from the chat, if we go back to Triskaidekaphobia, because you know you need to lose more minutes of your life to that card.
Yep.
Pie bet on who loses to this card first.
Between us?
Yep.
Neither.
Oh.
I might pie bet to see who actually sees it and play first, but I would lose because I play way more Magic than you.
Okay. But loses to it.
Loses to it? Also, I have a better chance of losing to it.
Well, that said, you also have a lesser chance of losing to it because you're a better player than I am, no?
I'm not taking this pie bet because I don't want to lose to this card and then lose a pie bet because I play more and I don't play power.
Oh, come on!
I'm not taking this pie bet. It's so weighted against me, even though it probably won't happen.
Well, then what's the problem? Anyway, Twins of Mar Estate. First of all, little girls with blood like flowing out of their mouths is pretty insane.
Yeah, I just want to know. I want to know who documents someone's last words.
That's insane.
I want to know who documented it, though.
Children, where are your parents? Says Rag, wandering monk, in his last words. Well, the kids wrote it down, obviously.
Oh yes, the kids they obviously are just chatty Cathys.
Well, of course. I mean, you know, they got nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. Well, ultimately the card as a 3/5 is okay. The madness is what makes it really exciting. You can get it out earlier than turn 5 or whatever, but it's still kind of middling ultimately. If you don't have enough madness enablers, I feel like this card isn't very playable. Let's put it that way. Vampire Noble is a black and 2 generic mana 3/2. It's a common vampire. ...
The most boring card in the set. Like, this Vampire Noble should just be ashamed, like, of all this, like, grotesque horror and flavor in all of the other black cards, and she's just sitting there.
Right, she's just hanging, just chilling, looking good.
Just some Olivia Valdarian flavor text, none of even herself.
Right, got that vampire game on point, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, just living the good life. She doesn't understand what's going on anymore. She is just oblivious to the world and the surroundings.
She's just a BA, and that's what they do. That's how they roll.
I just want to know where she lives because Nahiri has not visited it yet.
Ooh. She's not in a wall, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Not stuck in a wall. Got it. Vessels of Malignity. Vessel of Malignity is a black and a generic mana for a common enchantment. This is the black part of that cycle. A black and a generic mana. Sacrifice it. Target opponent exiles 2 cards from their hand. Activate this ability only anytime you can cast a sorcery. I appreciate the fact that this doesn't make your opponent discard, obviously, for madness reasons.
Yep, and it's exile. I also like that for 4 mana we have that rate with like Witness the End, and this is going to help. These cards really help Delirium.
Like, really, actually. Not just...
Yeah, because enchantments are important. They are. They're very important. And ripping the last 2 cards out of an opponent's hand is great. This rate is fine. I like this card a lot. The only problem I have is why the white vessel had 2 souls, and this one is just a book. Like, black should have the souls, right? Like, I understand the flavor, but, like, it's just a book in a vessel. Like, break in case of Jace needing to find more clues. I don't really get it.
Yeah, you know, I like this as more or less like a one of. I don't want to play 2 or 3 of this card.
Oh, yeah, one is enough.
But one will do you, and I think that's a good thing.
Yep.
So we have reached the end of all of the black cards.
And the half point in the Shadows set review.
That's correct. So, Brad, how do you feel about it kind of halfway in there, bro?
Well, let me sleep on it.
Let me sleep a long time, please, on it, and we'll talk about it. Yeah. That's great. But I want to thank you guys for joining us for the first ever live set review. This is day 1. We have finished the white, the blue, the black cards. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us, helping me out with my silly jokes, getting my silly jokes, getting Brad's silly jokes, which is awesome. That said, we will be back here tomorrow, 9 o'clock Eastern, to finish out the set. And I thank you guys for joining us here. We had well over 1,000 viewers for a
That's
very
awesome.
long time. We still have over 1,000 viewers. Hey guys, thanks for hanging out.
Thank you.
So until next time, I'm Evan Irwin,
I'm Brad Nelson,
tapping the cards.
so you don't have to.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.